Welcome back guys to Most Amazing Top 10. My name is Danny Burke and today we have the top 10 pictures taken before a tragedy. Now this video isn't the happiest one like you might expect. You might find some of these images disturbing, not necessarily because of what they look like on face value, but because we know that tragedy would strike maybe days, hours or even minutes after these pictures were taken. So coming in at number 10 now we have the US figure skating team. In 1961 the US figure skating team were invited to the World Figure Skating Championships in Prague. There was high hopes for the team's success. The men's team had won the gold medal at every Olympics for 13 years and the women's team were looking to defend their gold medal from the previous year. They took this picture before boarding their Boeing 707 aircraft in New York. The flight was to make a scheduled stopover in Belgium, but when they came in to land, they were forced to abort the landing because a small plane was still on the runway. The plane had to pull up abruptly but could not stabilize its wings in time and ended up spiraling to the ground where it crashed into a field. All 72 passengers on board were killed. The cause of the crash was never really established, but it's believed to have been some sort of failure of the stabilizer adjusting mechanism. Now if any of you don't like flying because of stories like this, don't worry, aircraft safety has come a long way in the past 50 years. Moving on to number 9 now, the Omagh Bombing. In 1998, Ireland and Northern Ireland were experiencing the Troubles, a time where a group called the IRA were carrying out civilian attacks in Ireland and the UK in their fight for a united Ireland. On August 15th, the streets of a small town called Omagh were busy with Saturday shoppers and tourists. On one street, in the middle of a small crowd, a car bomb exploded from a stolen car the IRA had put there and filled with explosives. The blast killed 29 people, including 2 unborn babies, and injured over 200 others. This picture was taken just minutes before the bomb went off. That red Vauxhall car you can see on the right was the car that exploded. The camera with this picture inside was found in the rubble. The man and the child in the picture survived. The photographer sadly did not. Coming in at the number 8 spot now, we have the J.F.K. assassination. On November 22nd, 1963, US President John F. Kennedy was shot and killed by a gunman during a presidential motorcade in Dallas, Texas. Now there has been a lot of discussion and analysing of the famous footage of that event, but this is perhaps the most famous picture from just before the event. Here, JFK can be seen smiling and greeting the crowd who turned out to see him as their car begins a journey he will not live to see the end of. For the millions that thought JFK would change America for the better, his murder was a tragedy of epic proportions. Next up at number 7 now, we have the Titanic. Now we all know the famous tragedy of when RMS Titanic sank in the North Atlantic, killing 1,517 people. We have the stories, we have documentaries about it, we even have one of the most famous movies of all time. But have you ever seen a picture of the real thing? This is the last picture ever taken of the Titanic. It was taken as the boat left its last stop of Queenstown in Ireland before heading west to New York. Now as we now know, it would never make that journey, sinking 3 days later. The next time a photograph would capture images of that boat physically would be in 1985, 73 years after it sank. Coming in at the number 6 spot now, we have the Challenger crew. NASA's space shuttle launches rarely go wrong, so when they do, it's incredibly shocking. In January 1986, NASA's space shuttle Challenger launched from the Kennedy Space Center. 17% of all Americans were watching this on live TV, partly due to the fact that along with the 6 astronauts on board, there was a teacher with them, set to be the first teacher in space. But 73 seconds after the launch, disaster struck. A number of different oversights had led to a failure of some key parts of the shuttle during launch and it quickly broke into pieces. All 7 crew members on board died. This picture was taken of them just before they boarded the shuttle. From front to back, Dick Scobie, Judith Resnick, Ronald McNair, Gregory Jarvis, Ellison Onizuka, teacher Krista McAuliffe and Michael J. Smith. Next up at number 5 now, we have the Bataclan. The terrorist attacks in Paris on November 13th, 2015 are still fresh in many people's memories. 130 people were gunned down in various Paris locations by men who had sworn allegiance to ISIS. 89 of the victims died at the Bataclan Theatre, where one terrorist opened fire on a crowd watching a rock show. 2 of those people were couple Giles Leclerc and Marianne Labanan. Giles uploaded this picture to his Instagram as the pair waited for the show to begin, not long before the tragedy happened. Marianne survived, Giles sadly did not, along with 88 other victims at the Bataclan. Alright, moving on to number 4 now, we have the station fire. On February 20th, 2003, a band called Great White were playing a show in the Station nightclub in Rhode Island. They had pyrotechnics on stage behind them, which went off during one of their songs. Some of the sparks from this ignited ignited foam around the stage. This is a picture of the moment the spark turned into a flame. Now at first people thought it was all part of the act, but as the flames spread, people began to panic. They began to run to the exits, but this led to a crush in the hallway, blocking the main exit completely. In just a few minutes, the entire building was on fire, the inside filled with deadly black smoke, and people could not get out. 100 people died in the flames. It was the 4th deadliest nightclub fire in US history. Next up at number 3 now, we have Dave Sanders. On April 20th, 1999, students in the cafeteria at Columbine High School in Colorado heard loud bangs coming from nearby. Many of them thought it was a prank by 2 senior students, but one teacher, Dave Sanders, knew it was an attack. This was the Columbine High School massacre that killed 13 students. As the gunmen made their way to the cafeteria, hoping to mow down hundreds of students with bullets and bombs, Dave Sanders ran to the cafeteria to warn them. The security camera there captured this image of him leaving the cafeteria to try and save even more students. Unfortunately, he ran into the gunmen, who then shot him in the back. Dave Sanders died of his injuries, but he is remembered by the hundreds of people he saved. Moving on to number 2 now, we have the Beirut Car Bomb. On December 17th, 2013, a car bomb went off in the city of Beirut in Lebanon. Its target was thought to be Mohammed Chattar, a minister and ambassador to the US. It successfully killed Mr. Chattar as his car drove past, but also killed 7 other people. One of them was this 16-year-old boy wearing a red top called Mohammed Shah. That gold-colored car behind them is the car loaded with explosives, which would detonate just minutes after the group posed for this selfie. The other 3 people in this picture survived, but Mohammed was struck with a piece of shrapnel to his head. He was rushed to hospital, but sadly died from his injuries. And finally now, at number 1, we have the Hally family. In 2014, Malaysian Airlines Flight 17, flying from the Netherlands to Malaysia, was shot down by a surface-to-air missile from separatists in Ukraine, killing all 283 passengers on board. Now after the initial shock of this tragedy, the media started reporting on some of the personal stories behind it. Perhaps the most touching one was this picture taken by Dave Hally of his wife Kim and their 4-year-old daughter Megan just before takeoff. They were said to be embarking on the vacation of a lifetime, and Dave posted this picture to social media less than 3 hours before tragedy would strike everyone on board. Well guys, that is that, I guess. Perhaps you guys might like a bit of a little pick-me-up to cheer you up. Well, we have got happier videos, a lot of them actually, so check them out. In the meantime, I'm Danny Burke. You've been watching Most Amazing Top 10. Stay safe out there, obviously, have a lovely day, and I'll see you all in the next one.